To be honest, to be very honest, the vast amount of knowledge that I have is a great deal. And it's hard to say where I should start in this because I could start in many places, on many perspectives, many views, but how about I start with this? About, oh, it's been about 8 years now. I got married and had been married previously to someone who took their own life because they were an addict to pills. Long story short, moved on, and that was after a blood moon back in August 2018. Um, anyways, moved on with my life. Had a lot of things to deal with, and yes, I have children. And what I was left with was abandonment, extreme amounts of trauma, and a system so corrupt it didn't give a shit. I was a single father, and I was making wasn't good money. I could assure you of that. But according to, I got $50 from Social Security, by the way, for her dying, and I had 4 kids at the time. So they wouldn't help me. Go figure. So I called benefits, food stamps, whatever you want to call it, and told the lady, I said, look, how the fuck do you expect me to pay all my bills, rent, and all this other good stuff, provide food, work, and pay for daycare for 4 kids? It's like, it's just absolute disgusting ways of life. And so I told her, I said, look, I'm going to quit my fucking job. I'm going to go get a shit job. And you're going to fucking pay me benefits. Oh, no, don't do that. Oh, fuck yes, I'm doing that. And I did. So I went and did trash for 14 months. And got my benefits. And my mother moved out here to help me. My dad had already passed away back in 2013, but she moved out here to help me, and she had plenty of her own issues, and I don't even know where to begin with my children on what had, started as a seed of just not goodness whatsoever from my previous wife and her ways and choices. And so in my new marriage, everything was hitting. And I just, I already knew myself and ways simply. But what I couldn't understand is why nobody could tell me the truth. It's always the same story. That's all it ever was, the same story. Somebody passes away. It's the same shit condolence. I don't want your fucking condolences, okay? I don't need you to tell me what you're going to tell the next 5 funerals. That you're not helping. Anybody knows this. And that's not me being harsh, that's me being honest. So, bypass all that, long story short, I said, fine. Nobody can tell me the truth, I'll find out myself. And that's where the journey began. Little did I know who I was. So, going, fast forwarding through a lot of things, this is whenever I became the living word and didn't understand the depths of my gifts, being so programmed to be nothing, and then all of the trauma dump that was not my fault poured onto my life based off of other people's shit. I didn't cause all those things. I've never been a bad person. Have I made mistakes? Well, of course. Going through the program, trying to find yourself and many other things. I mean, the list goes on. But I did everything I could to adapt in the best way I could cope with life. And it was never good enough anyways, because I was always dealing with somebody else's shit. And everybody always failed to take accountability, and I just couldn't understand it. So I dove into the truth myself, really deep. The most profound moment of spirituality for me was, I already had a lot of senses before this struck, but I was going down the road when I used to deliver mail to California, to Long Beach, and I used to do the night route. And when I started getting into scripture, it was like I always knew there was something to it, and like always believed in God. So, which is odd to say that like this now, but it was actually Paul in the scriptures that made my heart explode in something so otherworldly. It was such joy. It was presence of myself in time, without making it complicated. And we spent time together, and it was harmonious. It was beautiful. And that lit something in me that changed everything. Now, after getting into a new marriage, having the kids, and all the damage that from the seed being planted from prior, that was in the air. And then not, to say that there was my new wife's side and all of what she had been through, and then her kids. And so, once all the kids got together, it just went downhill. And that's because, life's programming and trauma and the most ridiculous therapy and psychology system I've ever heard in my life. I mean, if I went to the psychiatrist, they wouldn't see me. That was years ago. Why? Because I'm like, you don't even know what you're doing. I do your job better than you. I might as well counsel you. I'm not being a smartass, I'm just being real. But being real is always an offense. Yeah, I know my tone sometimes can seem rather blunt, but this isn't always my tone. I'm very compassionate, kind, loving, graceful, in general. So there's no excuse for that. That's just insecurities and being offended at me just being myself, which all the way up until now just seems to be something that never went away, but I'm making it go away because I don't give a shit what the fuck anybody thinks of me. I may be myself in entirety, but through every layer, I have been fighting and dealing with things beyond mortal comprehension. Am I in this body? Yeah, I'm in this body. But many have been completely programmed for the religious bullshit. You think that 10% is supposed to go to the church? Who do you think the church is? Who do you think the temple is? The tabernacle? The house? But anyways, I continued with my journey, and I'm not going to go into depths of things that are very, very deep. I mean, they are for anybody else, like being scattered and me being my actual self through all of this and all of time. It was very, very, very dark. Got very dark. And my love was just, the joy and spirit that I had was just profound. Didn't change my mindset. the cloaks and the presence and myself, and it was very intense, and that presence alone was, again, incomprehensible. And what is unseen by the masses and so on and so forth is something that only what time itself can explain, which is myself. I in and out of time. So there's always the now. There's time, and there is no time where I am. This is eternal, immortal. And so, to get myself in my presence, I had to go through spiritual things, being who I am as myself, and coming into remembrance. So, remembrance would be putting every member back in place. And so it began, and it went really deep, got really dark. A lot of spiritual experiences, and I'm still spiritual just as much now as ever before because I am a spiritual person. So a lot of what I emit, if I express myself in which seems to be so ridiculous on Facebook, would be, it's not ridiculous, it's just a small speck of me saying something, an expression. Many aspects. I mean, I used to speak in parables. I have never posted the parables that I used to speak in. I fulfilled the prophecy of 3.5 years that's in the Bible. The parables I used to speak was just something else. It was really deep. But, going into that, when I started my journey, I went diving into the Bible, back to getting to the truth, because I wanted to know the truth. Well, in this, I could hear what nobody else could hear in Scripture. And so this point right here that I'm telling you now is the point where I opened my mind. And this is when the Great Awakening began, back in COVID. I was literally the awakening itself. No matter how much ego wants to deny it, I don't give a shit. All right? You're going to. But, because you have to face yourself. So after what I've dealt with, I'm just like, when somebody throws ego my way, I'm just like, you're the reason why I used to be so dark and hate people with a passion. Why wouldn't I? Look at the world and the way one's treated, trying to heal what I didn't do. Because as far as the body, flesh, I've always been innocent. I've always been kind, caring, loving, considerate, great friend. But everybody in their fucked up ways always needed to point their fucking finger. And somehow there was always an entanglement of it being my fault for whatever reason. Doesn't matter what it was. And again, like I said, I wasn't perfect. I was trying to understand what the hell was happening. As hard as I was trying, and I couldn't understand why the hell I kept getting attacked in every which way but right, when all I had was pure intentions. And we know in this world, it's all about the bad boy look. Bad boy is a bitch. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. So I hate men with a passion. I'll be straightforward and honest with you. Fucking loathe men. And the reason I loathe them is because scum only thinks with one part. And there's something embedded in the DNA of time of this on a consistent level that you could call another program, but it's living in the flesh of code that's happened to women because of him. And I ain't fucking him. And I've made that very clear. And that's what led me all the way up till today, which is going to be the reason I am free. I am the law, and I'm not going to be bound by a piece of paper for what somebody wants to label me as if I am lower than. It doesn't work that way. I am myself, divinely protected, on levels again unseen as myself. There's many things I have not said, so many things I haven't posted on Facebook of knowledge. I always hear different thoughts from individuals, and it's an expression in time, like towards the self, in the journey, and trying to express like, well, doesn't know himself or this, that, all through it out. I'm like, no, I've known all way beyond what I've ever revealed this entire time. But, it's not like I'm just going to pour it all out there. I had to fight. Look at how many people use my knowledge for money, deprived me, stolen from me, used my knowledge to make themselves look good. Fucking cowards. You are pathetic. And I have no apologies for saying that, because you have no fucking backbone in not being yourself. I am myself, and I have suffered and sacrificed for that. While you're over there trying to know how to treat a woman, you don't know how to treat a woman. You're a bitch. And she's the reason why she is that way, is because of who he is, not who I am. So, and that goes extensive too, as far as, fraud and abuse and deception and so on and so forth. I mean, it got really bad. I can admit, speaking for myself in entirety, the last days will be very bad in deception. And that's another in-depth thing that I could go into. So, and I forgive myself for, being all over the place with this conversation. Like I said, it is so incomprehensible on the amount of knowledge that I have on explanation to explain every aspect of this, that it is wild. And so, hence, if my mind goes all over the place, and whenever I'm actually this entire time being in silence and dealing with so many emotions at once, I can speak for myself again. So, getting to the truth, I went into the Bible. From there, I fell straight into Egypt. That's where I went. Dove deep into it. Did what I did about myself as things were happening. And there is the threefold nature. So, I know myself on all three, forthcoming, the whole 9 yards. The first aspect of self is, you would call, the mother. And you're looking for yourself, and it's in its pluralistic form of what self scattered outside of me in that way of the layers of time is looking for. But myself, diving in and learning everything about me, being told it's you, before I even got into the furthest steps of knowledge, which blew my mind. And, being as sensitive as I am in my senses, it caused me a lot of anxiety, because I'm like, well, what do you mean it's me? I don't understand how it's me, the one, when I don't even know how all of this was done. Well, this is where, remembrance comes into play, layers, time, incomprehensible things of what you can see and you can't see, before being in this body, after being in this body, all those kinds of things. So, and learning myself even further from there, that's when, I just continued on. And while doing so, it caused, tremendous problems in my physical life as usual, because me being me was always a fucking issue. And I took accountability for what I was doing, and I flat out was very open. there's nothing more that I want to do, and I am absolutely passionate about diving into the spirituality. Well, that caused triggers because, I had kids that had problems and other things, and so it wasn't seen in what I was doing. So it was like I was abandoning things, but I'm like, I'm not. I'm being honest, because nobody knows the truth, and I am learning myself and sitting here saying things that was just off the top of my mind that couldn't just be random and known. And, I felt out of place saying them, but they ended up being true in time, undeniable. But regardless, you know, as said, you will not get a sign. So, being in my very own physical, personal life, fighting for my life, for the truth, the baggage continues of previous physical life of me trying to fight and find my way and just fucking live through everybody's drama, turmoil, and baggage. Every time I try to escape it, here it comes with past lives or everybody that's so egotistical and in denial and refuse to ever listen to what I had to say. Oh boy, how dare I even talk about it. And so, through the Egypt, getting into the threefold self, there's esoterics and gnosis and all those other things. The first being the mother. The first was self, the first being the last. So the first was myself. But learning myself turned into the plural, what we'd call the Mayas, the illusions, the duality, all that other good stuff, and all of that sense. And then it stepped into the mother, and then from the mother to the child, and from the child, to myself. And in that threefold nature was, strangely, hell, tremendous amount more of pain, but at the same time I was so fucking content with joy in what I was experiencing in my time alone on the road. It was phenomenal. I hated separating from it or having to go to bed or but it didn't matter. I'd sleep 2 hours and I'd be so fucking excited to get in my truck because I knew what I was going to do and I just couldn't get enough. Days upon days, 8-10 hours a day, every shift. Nothing but dedication to knowing myself and understanding and in literal creating all of this from an incomprehensible point in time, which is a whole other explanation. But I'm not going to give all of these things in too much detail right now, for certain reasons. And so, getting through the threefold nature, all the way up until now, the complete denial, the complete betrayal, backstabbing, rejection. I'm now at this point, and I just lost the last person I had left. That was his best friend to me. But here's the sad part: is I already knew that it was going to be. I couldn't be myself openly, honestly. How can I with anybody? With ego and the bullshit. So it doesn't work that way. In a grand way. So, I just left it at what it was, and he was the voice I've known since 2014 that I would go and play games with online. It was my escape from treacherous days or to get my mind off of, scrambling and trying to understand and shift and put everything together and patterns and revelations, fulfilling prophecy after prophecy. The Old Testament to the New Testament, that was a long one. That was a long journey, but it was amazing. The Book of Mormon, I learned the entirety of the Book of Mormon in 2 weeks. I could have ran. I could have ran. I still could if I went back over it, but I mean, that's nonsense right now, regardless of the offense that causes. Get over it, just like you tell me, right? So, in 2 weeks, I could have ran the whole damn church. All right. I heard things that nobody else, which just blows my mind. I heard things that nobody else heard, but everybody goes to church, a bunch of hypocrites, and sits there and just repeats themselves every Sunday. And I'm just like, look, it's sad that it took me 2 weeks of going over these things, and I could run the entirety of the church 10 times better than anybody ever has. When I went to church at the beginning of this marriage that I'm in, it was an offense. For one, I'm going to wear what I'm going to wear. I don't need you to tell me what I need that I can't. All right, I'm being myself. I don't care if you don't like it. I don't like you. I'm here for what it was that I was going through at the time. To advance the best that I could in my scenario. And it's like you go to the church today and you could ask a bishop, what's going on? And, well, I don't know. I'll have to get back to you. I'll have to figure it out. Tell me, well, why are you a fucking bishop? The fuck you doing? What kind of Mickey Mouse operation is this? And I'm going to talk that way. Period. Because if the truth is something very real and affects life, and you want to be labeled bishop in a deceiving religion in the way that it's been shaped, then we've got a fucking problem here. And I flat out told the bishop, I went to his office one day, because the money issues, that's a whole nother fucking story of fraud, theft, and committing fraud on my accounts and stuff, just trying anything to attack me to destroy my life. But I flat out laid it out, told him, a lot of things about the church. And he couldn't stand me, A lot of people in my town, I'm sure they all think I'm loco, crazy, whatever. I don't give a shit, that's the program. So go back to your program, because I'll tell you right now, if I walked into that church, I don't fucking know you. You're gonna find out real quick. It's coming for you, because you have to face yourself, no matter how deep your ego is. I face myself, and it's been fucking a journey. And so I have no pity for ignorance or error or forgetfulness and bullshit. To have such a high ego and stay comfortable, because you've got a group that does the same thing. Give me a Bible quiz and I'm going to fail the motherfucker. That's not how this works, all right? If I ask you a question, I don't need you flipping open the fucking Bible and give me some verse. Put the fucking book down, okay? I'm not looking for a verse. I'm looking for myself, and you're far from it. So I don't want nothing to do with you, and you can go back to your fucking program. It's in your own videos about, what you watched about being saved and hypocrites and all those. I mean, I could just go in depth and I could point all those things out, but there's so much there. I dig back in through my file cabinet, I guess you could say, of my mind and point out. But it goes back to the former president of the Mormon Church. What was it, Nelson or whatever? The funny thing is, like I said, I learned that whole book in 2 weeks, and the doctrines and all those other things. And so I was quite offended at, Joseph Smith and some of the things that he had done, and these things, and then the things that nobody talks about on the split up of the church and the journey. And then, I can't remember what they call it. It's been so long. FDC. There was the polygamist version, and then, that divide in that aspect of the religion. But Nelson had made I don't know if he wanted to call it a prophecy. It wasn't a prophecy. That's just a fact, because it all had to do with when taking the name Mormon out of the church and calling it the Latter-day Saints. I remember specifically him saying, him and the Lord had a vision or something, and then he found it on a yellow sticky note, something along those lines, to do this. And me sitting there, I laughed. And I said, "What the hell are you talking about? That's not a prophecy, buddy. It's in the Book of Mormon. It tells you that. And all you church members, you're also dedicated to this. And I didn't hear one person. What did you say? I mean, the last figures I heard was there was 14 million members, but I never heard a word about it. And I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, what the hell is going on? I read it for myself. I hear, I have the ears to hear and the eyes to see. I understand that. So there's a lot of grace. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. Yes, on a lot of levels, but to a certain point. And on top of that, I heard something else through the Book of Mormon that was extreme for me. It was absolutely necessary for this journey. So I will not sit here and tell you there's not truth in the Word, because there is. All right? It's a version of self in lineage or bloodlines. Now, going into the actual history and physical aspects, I don't got time for that bullshit. I just can tell you on a spiritual approach that there's a lot of things that make a difference in life. For me, it's been a long time, but for me, when I did that gap of time in the 2 weeks of the Book of Mormon, Alma, it reminded me a lot of Jesus Christ. There was a lot of other things I used to do too, on relation between the scripture, as the Book of Mormon does, in reference of the Bible. Very well, and identification. But past all that, being the last religion that I actually got to, is the forthcoming, after the threefold nature of oneself in creation. And here's where it's very dark, okay? This is where it gets very dark. I had to embody the curses and all of these things, which was very heavy. And myself, being her, to protect her, which is me. And so, and I made that oath, and nothing was going to change my mind. I went through hell and tortured, but I didn't budge. Why? Because you can't touch that purity. You fucking back up. Just because it's pure doesn't mean there's not a dark force that'll fuck you up if you even try for a second to fuck with me. I know myself, and I don't play. It's not a game. It's very real. And so that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. He's dark, is this and that. You know what? Shut up. You're ignorant. So, in protecting her, this is where the darkness really comes in the child. And so, for generations, probably say a couple thousand years, I'm not going to sit here and try to be precise on the exact information of cults, secret covenants, bloodlines, and like this secrecy of pretty much an agenda. It's like the 7 layers, and each one fell as evolution continued. As I moved through the womb of time, it continued, so me going through the spiritual warfare in all of time, witnessed, heard, and know all the secrets. I didn't have to have all your hidden books. I don't give a shit what you got. You think you can hide from yourself? I could speak in ways that would just blow your mind. I'm wrapped around you like nobody's business. Every stroke of your pen is a code that I will break down and read and listen to, in certainty of what you projected, thinking you knew the way, not knowing it is I, watching, listening to what you're doing. Hence how I know all the codecs and the coding and all of the things like that. And, this is where the government and the agenda comes in. And this gets really deep and really dark. And there's a lot of things I haven't revealed, because there is a transition through transmutation that I gave grace. God, me, I gave grace and understanding for repentance, a change, Freemasonry, all those things. I already know. I'll make your 33rd degree Freemason look like a fucking kindergartner with all your pride and your bullshit and your fucking whatever. Okay, so I understood the imprints of programming done, and then all of the humiliation rituals and all of those other things that went on behind closed doors and the secrecy and so on and so forth, establishments and when I came across self-realization of what was being done, I still stayed in secrecy. Why? Because there's a grander picture in secrecy. There's no denying that, and for excellent reasons, as the fulfillment of oneself in entirety, to set myself free, so to speak, without being bound even more by scum men that I can't stand, or women in their error, to the ones that were just abusive and used their bodies to get what they want and destroyed a man like me for their own benefits. So that's no fucking secret. I mean, that's just in general society. Anybody can see that in time. So again, protecting her in their secret covenants and all these things, that you get into the satanic side and the worship and their little statue, which I've already made a post about and said, no, that is not a appropriate representation of me. It's not. That's just the constructed deception of that, the cultism. But then you get really deep into it, and so then this gets into the Epstein. And this, I just call it the Epstein just because, fucking news and all that stuff. We'll just leave it at that. Good enough label, description, name, regardless of what's behind that name and true identities and all that other stuff and secrets and covenants and all that other shit. Let's call it the Epstein, okay? Everybody has been fucking Epstein, all right? What do I mean by that? I mean, there is generational trauma so deep from what they have done that it contributed to the matrix of separation, which caused mass illusions, programming to seeing God in the skies, and the way that they made all of these things, that ego and suppression and fear and governments and these agenda by these fucking cowards made it seem like, well, you could just overrun, and it's just like in my life, even to this day, trying to say something in my hometown, and it's like, oh, no, you're a coward. Well, you're not going to speak for yourself. You're going to defend your own deaths. Cool. Because you're uncomfortable. Well, let me give you a fucking tissue for your issue, because you don't know what uncomfortable is. Oh, that just strikes a chord with people. Well, shut up, you don't. I can tell you things that'll make you sick. So, but I have a way of being myself, and that's exactly what I'm going to do, because that's the only way it's going to work, is for me to fully be myself, which was fucking traumatizing as fuck with everybody's baggage and all the rituals constantly done and fraud and projections and energy sent my way and denial and jealousy and idolizing and all that other shit. Just me battling, and just one man right here battling all the bullshit, protecting her. And I'll fuck you up over her. No questions asked. I don't care. Trust me. Trust me. So, all of this pedophilia and these things So the rituals go very deep, and so this goes into the whole entire governmental system, all the way to the White House, through every country on their trafficking. So what they're doing, what they've done, was coded DNA of ourselves with generational curses of them trying to be God. Like I said, depending on the time frame of layers, I will justify certain parts with no hesitation. And that's because it is crucial for everything. Now, this comes back to where I said I give grace for time and transformation through the Masons to make a decision through the spirituality aspects of the energy that's moving amongst oneself through the entirety of everything of every day. And I did for a long time, saying, repent in spirit, find your way back to me, all right? The sacrifices, whether it be encrypted, symbolic, biblical, I know those things. My heart's been ripped out, quite a few times. But being myself, there's nothing too hard for me to do. So I said, in being destroyed, I didn't do death. I said, I'll fix this. I was furious in spirit because of what had been done. But with my unconditional love, I said, get your ass where you're supposed to be, and I won't go into details of that. I said, I'll do what I do, and I'll fix this, and I will purify it. I'm going to purify you. And so, sticking to my oath, I had to go through the embodiment of those things, and it's terrible because there was nothing more than them wanting and betraying me after, biblical context of time, the tree and the hanging man and the crucifixion, of the greed and power and strive to be God or make me forget who I am, to have their empire, which I've already sat here and one man and, did some ass beating. So I had to feel the feelings as they were doing their rituals. And I mean, I don't know the numbers because I work in spirit. I don't work in rotten flesh. I work in spirit. No matter how dark it goes, it doesn't matter. I go very dark, to the darkest depths. But make no mistake on the design and purpose of this. And to feel in my body through the nervous system what it's like to embody the lust that they did for the children destroyed me for 2 years. 2 fucking years it destroyed me. Took its toll. And they fucking did everything they could trying to get me to give into their system, to kill me, make me fall in their way of doing it, to have control with their power, but bunch of pussies. Ain't shit. So, I refused. I went through fucking torture for 2 years, a little over 2 years, to find a way to fix this because, there's nothing too hard for me to do. And so tracking everything, going through spiritual things, I found my way. of the Virgin. This I won't speak about. Not now. Not here. Myself knows I don't have to talk about it. I don't need to justify myself. And so you better fucking get your shit real straight, real quick, and fuck around and find out. And after dealing with that, I moved forward and trying to understand physical because I'm spiritual. So I already know the other side of the veil, the invincible, the silence. I was trying to understand what the hell's going on in physical. Like I had to look at everything as they were just stabbing me in the back and betraying me. I don't even know who I've talked to in emails. Still got him today. I mean, you could say David Rothschild, but there were so many African accents that committed so much fucking fraud and schemes for, tricking and cursing and all that other stuff, but I never gave into it. I mean, that's how my frauds got committed on my account, because as I'm trying to understand myself and reach out, they're just looking at me like I'm nothing on the physical planes. And, like I'm supposed to bow and join, and I'm like, no, not going to happen. You'll bow, not me. I have the power. So I don't need to go through your humiliation and all those fucking ridiculous. Bunch of fucking shenanigans. Go play your games. I'll play you like a fucking fiddle. Humiliate you. Once you're getting. By the way, to any that didn't humble themselves in humility. I told you long ago in my post, I will bring you to your fucking knees. Well, I meant it. Oh, and you will. It doesn't matter King Charles, it doesn't matter who you are. Don't fuck with me. I don't say that in pride, I say that in truth. Because I had to embody and go through the things that you've done. So yeah. I know that was all over the place. Apologies for, it being very difficult to understand what I just said, because it's in parts. There's so much that the details, it's very deep, obviously, in 7 layers. These motherfuckers being burrito, so yeah, that's what's going on in the government and revealing what's happened with these child trafficking and all that stuff. Yeah, that's what I fought. I faced that. Protected her. Protected him. Protected one. Literally myself. So they just wanted to encode everybody to be God themselves. Like, control your minds, and it goes very deep and all that other shit. Fucking pathetic. Which I don't get me wrong, I have much gratitude, and I'm very thankful and grateful to do this purification for, my son, in the way you would describe it in biblical context of being the father that I am. And I meant that, and all of it meant very dear to me. Her, him, myself, mama, if you want to go into that. Even though there's a very evil sides to those, and then there's my purity and my way of myself. So 2 different aspects. Regardless, if I had a problem, I assure you, Mama would have fucking fixed it. That's not a game. It's not. Like, people's worst nightmares is my comfort zone. And there's no ignorance in that, so and people can label it and try to say, oh, whatever, no. Okay? Not going to happen. Because I'm going to make sure she fucking smiles. And even in incomprehensible ways that is not known to mortals, no matter how much attacked I was or betrayed, you can't see things in certain places of time, so I could. So I buried it. I bodied it. I dealt with it. Torturous again. Pride was a killer. That one really fucking shattered me. There's many of them that did. The child, the pride, uh, the ego attacking me in my own personal life 24/7, denying me. So, but now I'm just reached the point in my life where I'm not bound in a marriage. This has nothing to do with the way it's put. I am myself. And I'm not going to apologize for that. And I am ready to be myself, attract all of the abundance that I am. I mean, it's beautiful because I see beyond time on what's to come of this, premonitions, all those other things. And why ego phases here, it's going to try to hold me down in the prison system that you're aware of, that I've been in. Being all so powerful, yeah, well, when I'm digging myself out of the shit that's been done, never always being the one that was pure with goodness, it's like getting leeches of emotions that's not mine, that every single person has to face, if you will, in that way. So I'm going to be myself. But in this and having my own children and so on, it goes into that. So, I'm very protective of my family, even though it's a nightmare because of the curses and other things that's been done over my home and shit. So it's been nothing short of a nightmare in this fucking system. And it always comes back to my fault no matter what the fuck happens. I'm just like, fuck off. It's not my fault. You guys all sit here and enforce the same goddamn thing over and over again, and I'm sitting here telling you, but not a single person wants to listen to me. I can't keep doing something, but I will protect the way that I do. And that's the only way of change can happen, is I am trying to process the nervous system of what very close has done to what's in the further. Very true. And if I was to get into explicit detail, this is where things is going to cause some fucking problems, okay? So, with grace, I do what I do for my way because I am myself. Myself knows this very well, very clear, very present in speaking in silence, no matter who's sitting next to me in my own fucking home. I will have conversations in the silence, and it's real deep, it's real amazing. But so now I'm open. I'm coming into the light of healing. So I'm not bound by a certificate in paper, like I said. You can't sit here and hold the higher law down with your lower laws. It just doesn't work. The law is based on the Bible, and in there it clearly tells you God is all and owns everything. I am myself, the tetrahedrons on my forehead in the flesh, even though knowing who you are with the insult of what you wanted to say without even looking when I tried to show you, this is fact. Every courtroom, all of it. No. Okay? I am the law. All law. I give grace. But FAFO. Okay? I don't care if you're the president. I don't care if you're 3 billion people in another country. I am one. It takes my word to fuck you up. It has nothing to do with incomprehensible acts of thoughts that come trickling through on different parts of self, being very dark, very angry, or very quick to judge, all those other things. You know what? I understand all of these layers. And so whenever I'm sitting here trying to deal with myself and I'm getting hit with the multiverse, I'm trying to keep myself sane and stable all at the same time while being heavily insulted in a fucking low energy. I mean, it's just unfathomable. It's insanity. I mean, nobody truly understands this but me, myself. You just wouldn't. It's just, the depths is insane. So my unconditional love and softness is fucking beautiful. I mean, the worth in that, which goes into man of my representation, which many still fell because, it is what it is. Just like on both ends, it is what it is. I'm not sitting here vouching for anything separate in that time frame. I will vouch for myself in the evolution of being one and truth. Call you out on deception and correcting what happened back through dark times of the kingdom, telling my son, I'll fix this, purify it. I have, because I was going to let a real apocalypse happen physically and just let the world be destroyed. I mean, there's a whole lot of explanation in that. Bunch of fucking retards. So, there's that for today. I am myself. I am in Sigurd, Utah. I've been completely annihilated as far as fiat goes, paper money, all my accounts, everything. It's just been thrashed and destroyed. So, no, I'm not a broke man. In your system, that's fucking bullshit. Sure, because I refuse to work that way. You fucking sit there and made sure with your pride and egos and rituals to try to make me just fucking, come crawling to you. Nah, not gonna happen. The other way around. Okay, pumpkin? So, true currency is me. And I'm very open to myself. So, in the now of present, there's no humiliation for me to sit here and say, I don't have the lie of the system to move forward. So, the prison system. So, as the release happens of the shackles, comes true currency of my heart, my oath, myself, meeting myself in presence as I move forward. So, before any labels get thrown out there, now you know. Till I get back to it next time, there we go.